Let's talk about the environment now. Democratic Party propaganda would have us believe that Democrats are better on the environment and climate change, and that includes the propagandists on the left. Because Republicans are so Republican when it comes to the environment, Democrats don't have to do much to look better. They're always saying, oh my god, you guys, climate change is such a problem. We should totally do something about it. And then they don't do anything because they're Democrats. Probably every single one of the 3,000 Democrats who ran for the presidential nomination gave the same talking point. When I become president, the first thing I'm going to do is sign us back up for the Paris Climate Accord. The Climate Accord is like signing a petition. You think you're doing something, but you're actually not. Countries are under no obligation to meet the goals. There's no way to enforce them. Also, the United States could bring the hammer down on climate change without ever rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. But that's not what the Democrats want. They think that signing the petition should be enough to shut us up on the left, because the alternative, Republicans running the show, would be so much worse. David Pakman has argued that while Joe Biden may not do anything radical to stop climate change, he will bring about incremental improvements. Until we have a real left-winger in the White House, incrementalism is the best we're going to do. I went to Joe Biden's website a few months ago and looked at the section about climate change. I do have to say, it contained many words and sentences. I don't know what any of it meant. It was like whoever wrote that barfed out a bunch of keywords about environmentalism, climate change, and job creation. Do you remember how there was a 2-year window when Democrats controlled the executive branch and all of Congress? It was from 2009 to 2011. Joe Biden was vice president back then. Did the Democrats do anything about climate change when they had that opportunity? No, they didn't. But now we're being told that we have to vote for Democrats because they are the solution to the problem that they've allowed to fester for decades. Since the George W. Bush years, when climate change hit the mainstream, we've been in this cycle. Republicans deregulated everything and trashed the environment. Then Democrats, when they could have legislated anything they wanted, did nothing. Then the Republicans took control of the House of Representatives, and the pressure was off the Democrats in Congress and the Obama administration to legislate anything. Then Obama did his little regulations, and I'm sure he was praised in Democratic circles for being so bold and proactive. And I'm sure that we on the left were supposed to be grateful to him for standing up to the mean Republicans who just wouldn't let him legislate the things he wanted anymore. Then all of those regulations were undone with the stroke of a Sharpie, and everything's getting trashed again. And now we're supposed to vote for another Democrat who's just going to restore the Obama regulations and say to the left, you're welcome, keep your mouth shut, vote for me in 2024, or the Republicans are going to undo all of this again. Restoring the regulations that were already there is not incrementalism. There's no progress in that. It seems like the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth between total annihilation of the environment and a slower annihilation of the environment. We don't have time for this, and by we, I mean our species. We're just treading water when we vote for Democrats. Sorry, David. Besides, incrementalism is a totally inadequate way to deal with an existential crisis. And here's another thing about Joe Biden and his record on the environment. We have environmental crises in this country that have nothing to do with climate change. The Flint water crisis comes to mind. It started in 2014. That was during the Obama administration. President Obama didn't declare an emergency until 2016, and that didn't end the crisis. Joe Biden needs to explain what happened. Not that Trump solved the problem either. He doesn't care if black people in Flint are being poisoned by their own water. Actually, water is not a racial issue for Trump. He doesn't care if white people in fracking communities in Pennsylvania can light their water on fire. Nor does he care if white people in West Virginia have to drink water contaminated by coal sludge. But wait, all of that was happening too when Joe Biden was vice president. And he hasn't had to answer for any of it because the left doesn't make him. And one more thing about climate change. California is an inferno right now. If you look out that window, you might think it's an overcast day. It's not. The sun is being blocked by smoke. If I go outside right now, I will not have clean air to breathe. All the windows are closed, and I can smell smoke right now. Joe Biden isn't going to do dick about that. Donald Trump thinks he doesn't have to be president of California because we gave him the finger 4 years ago. But Joe Biden doesn't have the answer to wildfires either. He'll just smile at us and say, we don't need to do anything drastic or immediate about climate change. We've got decades to work our way up to it. This is yet another failing of the left, failing to frame the discussion about wildfires as an existential environmental crisis. Everyone in California is being hypnotized into thinking that PG&E is solely responsible for wildfires and cannot be held accountable because it's gone bankrupt. So now every time it gets a little windy outside, people start freaking out because a fire might start. And then PG&E, instead of spending money to maintain its equipment, is allowed to cut the power. And then fires start anyway. Our cuck of a governor has no answer for any of that. Democrats who represent California in Congress or the state legislature don't have an answer either. And why should they bother? They're going to get reelected anyway. Joe Biden doesn't care what's going on over here. He's going to win California no matter what. Bernie doesn't care. He's not worried about climate change anymore. He's telling us to settle for his friend Joe. In fact, he keeps tweeting about how it's Trump and the evil Republicans who want us to keep using fossil fuels. There was no mention in any of those tweets about how the Democrats removed language in the party platform about ending fossil fuel subsidies. I thought Bernie was having so much influence over the platform. What happened? He does propaganda, just pure propaganda now for the Democratic establishment. His job is to move us to the right on climate change. The left should be moving everyone else to the left on climate change. And it's not like these fires are happening in some foreign country that Americans don't care about. This is climate change affecting white suburban people in California, and the left is nowhere to be found. Normie Democrats in California would rather pack a suitcase and be ready to flee at a moment's notice or move to a different state than have the government bring the hammer down on climate change. That's the left's fault. So there's your status report from California. The left is throwing away another opportunity to lead on climate change and make the Democrats look bad.